Most heartfelt greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlethems. I eagerly welcome you back to Sturgeon's most premier station, Dusk Light Radio, hosted by yours truly, the brave yet bold, fortunate yet favorable, and capriciously cautious Everett J. Blackwell. Perhaps you know of us Blackwells. We offered guided tours through the Umbral City, Old Blackwell's Chicharoni tours through all manner of hellscapes. We had a special offer on Umbral City tours. Lose your shadow, get 50% off. Not everyone claimed that one. It was a slow year for Blackwell businesses. Grandpappy Mordecai Blackwell was pretty red-faced at the Blackwell Summit that year. He was contesting with Great Uncle Balthazar Blackwell's multiversal social media called What If, where you could see every other choice your alternate selves have made but never interact with. Made doom scrolling kind of obsolete. And great cousin Sinestra Blackwell's time dilation hellscape summer vacation homes, where every blink is an eternity. Literally. But you're conscious the whole time. 2 weeks stay minimum. She said most came out as husks afterwards, but were refreshed. 5 stars. Anyway, I'm Dusklight's main and most fabulous half-dead host. My job at this fine radio station is to bring you some of the most twisted, interesting, and downright bizarre tales that I and my wonderful many-legged runners collect from the far corners of Sturgeon and beyond. Some of them will make you laugh, some will make you cry, and some of you will order Vanta Black chocolate. They say one bite is all it takes to send you into a world of taste undiscovered by most individuals. A realm and a world unseen, your very soul embracing the bitterness of the chocolate until Soren Kierkegaard himself would kneel before your cynicism and misery. Your body folding inwards at the bitter sensation until you become a singularity of darkness, a wellspring of bitterness. No light escaping from you as the rest of creation is twisted and stretched like spaghetti string until it will join you in the new center of all things. Vanta Black chocolate, when you must be the crushing weight of everything that the universe is responsible for. Not suitable for ages under 12. It's time for our next story of this evening. This tale has been sent in by our resident janitor TJ Lee, who says it was left at our doorstep by a strange, shadowy being. Or he thinks they were. He says he was busy building his crayon empire that he assures me will never, ever perform a hostile takeover of the company. Never, he iterates. Never, ever, ever, he says, forehead pressed to my own, eyes staring into mine as lips curl up into a slightly insincere smile. Appreciate it, TJ. This story, entitled Has Anyone Else Lost Track of Their Shadow, is a plea for help from Sturgeonite resident and performance savant William Meyer. Oh, I know, Will. I took my last date to see his shadow puppetry performance some years ago. He fell asleep in the first act. What a dork. If you enjoyed this story, more of TJ's findings and Sturgeon tales are in the comments below, as is a playlist. Special thanks must be given first to Mandy Moe for rendering yours truly in the beauteous image you see when you look at our page. And our music is provided with permission by Cryo Chamber, Invato Elements, and the Dark Somnium with gracious thanks. Your voice for this tale is our jubilant janitor TJ Lee, all hail his janitorial wisdom, and if you enjoy these intros and want to see more, please ensure you've got notifications on and leave a comment for every video you encounter. With that, the sun has set and dusk has crawled into the studio once more. Whether you're working, prepping to sleep, or evading the formless void that will one day consume us all, Blackwell is here to soothe your ears and captivate your soul. Now, close your eyes and take a deep breath. The scene has been set and the light is on. It's time to walk towards it. Has anyone else lost track of their shadow? It must sound so silly, losing track of something that's attached to you. I'm sure some folks already have the sun went down, didn't it statement at the ready for me. But I'm being serious. I cannot find my shadow, and I'm desperate to have it back. I don't know where else to turn. Everett, I'm hoping you can help me. It's remarkable how easily we can come to accept mundane oddities as just a part of our everyday lives. Brushing the only piece of our skeleton that sits outside our flesh twice a day, experiencing moments of no breathing followed by choking during heavy sleep. And our shadow. That long, featureless black frame that looms over all that we do. A silent participant that we only occasionally pay any attention to on particularly slow days, or where our shadow sits in a unique spot. I suppose I'm trying to make it more glamorous than it actually is. I guess I have an admiration for the odd things we accept as normalcy. My full-body shadow was no different from anyone else's. A simple, tall, thin figure that walked and moved in sync with me. I did, however, have a skill manipulating parts of it. Shadow puppetry. I reveled in making fun and fantastical creatures by bending my fingers in just the right way. My friends loved it. My family even more so. Dogs, cats, dragons, and alpacas. I found such joy in bringing them to life or testing myself to find new ways to captivate audiences. I was a born entertainer and an artist. But on occasion, I'd feel the urge to snap my digits in unusual ways. Never painful, or at least it never felt painful in the moment. But it sure as hell looked it to anyone privy to the show, I'm sure. The aching after was well worth it. My pinky would tuck itself underneath my ring finger, wrapping itself around as the joint stretched and strained, other fingers accommodating while my wrists jerked and shuddered. On the screen was a different story. Fantastical shadow cities filled with great spires, Georgian manor houses, market stalls filled with hungry, vibrant souls. My hands could make more than anyone ever imagined. Eventually, the shows grew from the backyards and school talent shows to being booked in Sturgeon's Grand Hall, opening for the fabulous Decolters, a troupe of gymnasts, Vantablack manipulators, and nightmare catchers. My act would involve using my fingers and toes, a bright spotlight, and a lot of improvisation. People would flock to anywhere my name was on the marquee in hopes of visiting the Umbra Citadel, seeing the ongoings of the town and its strange inhabitants. In time, the shadows would take on their own life, though I'd never tell my audiences such a thing. Characters would wander off to the edges of the screen and test the boundaries. Audiences thought it was peak surrealism and heaped praise on me. One character people gravitated towards was the Conjurer, a reclusive man hidden behind a thick coat and a layered pointy hat, occasionally seen casting shadows with his own hands.
How the hell do you do that? Shadows within shadows? This is avant-garde shadow puppetry. Such a thing. It's inconceivable.
My manager commented after a show a few months ago, enthralled and frightened by my abilities. What he thought were my abilities. Can't reveal my secrets now, can I? I chuckled, stretching my hands and feet, joints aching terribly now the adrenaline wore off. Arthritis was almost certain in my future.
You're killing me, Will. Come on, you made it this far. The Nexus wants to interview you and hear about how it's all done ahead of your television debut.
I could practically see the dollar signs in his eyes, but I knew his heart was in the right place, even if that place happened to be next to his wallet. All right, Jennings, all right. Tell their best journalist I'll fill them in when the date is set, okay? A tell-all interview. He grinned and practically jumped out of his shoes at the prospect, clapping and thanking me as he left. Someone else maneuvering past him to get through the doorway to my dresser. A tall, Thin man in a beautiful red suit, bright silver blazer and bright smile. His satchel affixed to his side perfectly, a small bump pushing its way up from the inside as if something was writhing deep within its bowels. I knew immediately who it was. Eustace Decoulter. I know your secret, Mr. Meyer. He offered out a gloved hand. I took it and we shook firmly, keeping my eyes on his, though they were obscured behind dark circular glasses. Your shadow has a mind of its own, and it is trying to get home. Well, Jung says the shadow is an id. Perhaps mine is simply the unconscious desires I possess that are desperately wanting to break free, huh? Go back to the place of my birth, just down the road and across the pond. I smirked, grabbing a drink and swirling it in my hand. Come on. Really? My shadow hasn't got a mind of its own. It's just me. Decoulter's smile faded and his shoulders shook as if a cold shiver came over him. Being a cynic of the things you don't understand will not do you any favors. It will only bring ruin as it did for me. A shadow person may be attached to you, but it is like any living creature. Push it far enough, poke and prod it unprovoked, and it will bite back. He cocked his head to the side, looked at something behind me, and the smirk returned. You fear it, don't you? This is why the lights are fixed the way they are. To trap it. To stop it gaining too much power. To stop it going home. What home are you referring to? The Umbra Citadel? That's a place I made up. I responded dryly. I felt uncomfortable. How was he this astute with just a handful of interactions with me? No, you didn't. That is a place you found. There is a difference. All shadows have their birth home, but few find their way back there. You're one of the few that can conjure it. That word. How did he... Talk to me, Mr. Meyer. Has anything felt off lately? I've seen some of your shows while warming up. They are fantastic, but they seem to be veering off course lately. Perhaps they are not what you envisioned. I felt unease, but it made no sense to hide information from him. Look, I don't know about any kind of shadow person or whatever, but I will admit that my shows have gotten out of hand, no pun intended. There are things going on in it that I'm not in full control of. Sometimes it feels like it's getting away from me. I know there are places in the Umbra Citadel that I haven't shown the crowd yet, that I don't want to show. I shook my head, downing my stiff drink. But that's just fatigue talking. Oh, I've been at this for 20 fucking years. I'm in control. If that ever changes, I'll be sure to call you. Thank you, Eustace, but I need to rest now. I stood up and gestured for him to leave. He shook his head and smirked, turning on his heel as he headed for the door. When you feel the chains binding him begin to crack, seek me. If they break, do not run another show. Good luck, Will. He bowed and exited, leaving me with a mixture of exhaustion and concern. As I turned my back to sit down, the light from the hallway caught my eye, and I saw my shadow, nestled up against the wall, watching me. As the summer solstice kicked in, it became harder and harder to find locations where either my skills weren't sought after or shadows didn't permeate every aspect of Sturgeon's structures. Even at night, mandatory media obligations filled with brightly lit locations meant I was not only dragging my shadow along with me, but subjecting parts of it to the torment of shadow puppetry. Twisting and pulling it until the core essence revealed itself and the Umbra Citadel would form. I'd figured out by this point that not only was I not in control of the complex shadow puppetry, but I was being inexorably pulled towards the Conjurer and their journey to the great gates deep within the bowels of the Umbra Citadel. My feet burned and veins popped as the last handful of shows I performed began to showcase the more forbidden areas of the city. Rituals the black seafaring sailors would undertake, the harvest under a black star, the daycare where everyone sleeps upside down. I hated it. I hated every moment of it. But the crowd became more rabid with every show, growing aggressive if I wasn't on stage for longer than an hour. It began to get ugly. I would rarely see the crowd from the bright lights and focusing on my art, but I'd hear mumblings from other acts that the crowd were pallid, unrecognizable, and feral. Then, one night after a particularly rowdy show, I got sloppy. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was an unconscious desire to have things just calm down for a while. But in the lead up to my tell-all interview, I stayed up late far too many times to perfect a new technique, falling asleep in front of my spotlight on the 5th night. When I woke up, there was no shadow. Not when my hands poked out, my feet, or my whole body. An absence of space where my companion once stood. Fuck. I darted for the door, grabbing my phone and my keys, checking my messages and finding Eustace's number. Instead, I found a post on the Nexus about a new impromptu art show by shadow artist William Meyer, tonight only. Oh no. Eustace's words came back, and the realization hit me with a wave of fear. If my shadow isn't here, where the fuck is it? I felt that concern as I ran for the Grand Hall, the sun setting and the shadows cast by every building, animal, car, and object seemed to be reaching out to me. Whether to stop me or help me, I don't know. By the time I got to the hall, it was a sold-out show. The damn ticket officer wouldn't even acknowledge me. Back turned and staring at the floor, swaying from side to side in a rhythmic fashion, fixated on something unseen. I didn't have time to argue. I pushed past and ran through the back area to find Eustace. The sounds I heard as I passed by the general seating area were horrific, animalistic, and manic. The sounds of things being torn, gurgling with a soft, almost pleading moan snuffed out with a dull thud. Closed mouth shrieks increasing in volume and agony as something wet is pulled free. Whooping, hollering, and incomprehensible noises that I tried my absolute best to block out, but left me shaking to my very core and grateful I didn't see them. I never wanted to find out what matched those fucking noises. Finding the decollete dresser, I found Eustace unconscious on the floor, satchel gone, and head bleeding. Eustace! Eustace! I can't do this without you, man, come on! I turned him over and gave him some gentle slaps, thankfully, rousing him from unconsciousness. A grim look appeared on his face. You did a show. You let it loose. The conjurer you spoke of opened up the gates. I felt a lump in my throat, the noises outside weighing down on me with every passing second. What do I do? I asked, knees buckling with nerves. I want to make this right, to fix this. Eustace shook his head, getting to his feet. Your shadow was called back to the Umbra Citadel. It has left you forever. Vulnerable. He walked to the door and set off for the hallway. I followed behind him, still determined to fix my error. Vulnerable? Why? Eustace, please, tell me we can fix this. I pulled on his shoulder, but he brushed me off, walking silently down the hall until we got to the stage door. You're vulnerable because without a shadow, without your shadow, your soul is up for grabs. No barrier, no protector. Anything sees you as fair game now, William. Anything. He shook his head and turned round, taking off the glasses and showcasing a scar running the length of one eye, a grey pupil staring back at me. You can't fix everything. You have to own your mistakes. Get a new shadow, William. Ask for one or steal one if you have to. But your journey stops here. He opened the door, and we stepped out onto the stage, the screen no longer running and not a soul in the audience. The smell of iron mixed with a miasma of foul odors hitting my nostrils and bringing me to my knees. As my perspective shifted, I saw what lay in every seat of the audience area. Shadows. An entire hall full of them silently sat there, watching. Eustace flipped a light switch, and they were gone in an instant. He mentioned something about trying to proclaim the lost people eventually, but that it would take time. Said he had a tournament to appear in first. As for me, I kept a low profile and refused any and all interviews. Told them I was sick and mentally exhausted, unwilling to answer any scrutinizing questions or condemnations of what happened to these people. To my horror, that was not why most were inquiring. Instead, they were eager, almost too eager for another show, demanding in no small terms that I run it again and open the doors to the Umbra Citadel, stating that every night their shadow stood over them and demanded it silently. Some, however, asked in an almost mocking tone, "Where is your shadow now? Do you feel safe?" I hear odd noises outside during the waning hours. Things call to me in an almost singing tone to come outside. They don't say it, but I know that's what they mean. Every food delivery I get is handled with minimal physical contact. I tell the driver to leave the food on the doorstep, and I snatch it when they're gone. Last week, I caught him watching me from the bushes. He stood up slowly as he spotted me, his shoulders hunching over and something pushing up through his uniform. I slammed the door before I saw any more and switched food companies. Maybe they're not everywhere. I've given up on sleeping for so long. Now I just dream of the Umbra Citadel. In shadow, I walk along the cobbled streets into the lair of the conjurer. He asks me questions without speaking, talks about the lost shadows. He pleads for me to come home. I need to get back. I need to go there. I need to be able to sleep at night. I'm begging someone, anyone out there listening through Dusklight Radio, to tell me they too lost track of their shadow. That I'm not the only one who is feeling this suffocating sense of paranoia. This unquenchable desire to find a shadow shaped like a door and leap into it. To find a way to this citadel. To make this right. Or, better yet, for someone to pop up who found their shadow again. To find it standing behind them dutifully and mimicking their every move. Just like normal. Because, in the fleeting moments when I'm asleep, when my guard is down and the lights hit the wall just right, an unfamiliar shadow stands over my bed. It cranes its neck to loom over and stare directly at me. If it had a mouth, I swear it would scream. It is not my shadow. It's not anyone's shadow. It is letting me know that it is there. It is waiting. And it is hungry. Oh, Lord. Poor Mr. Myers' shadow has gone missing? Oh, the Blackwell family's got to have some demons coming back to haunt them from our Umbral City tours. I wonder if I can keep mine around. He's a rambunctious scamp and often goes on long sojourns to have adventures, but he always seems to come back in the end. I'm giving him a thumbs up now for assurance. He's just putting a single finger to his lips and shaking his head. Oh dear. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of our other transmissions. We're adding them regularly and would love to have you as part of the Dusklight family by subscribing, hitting the Bell of Shadows, and leave a comment with stories you'd love for my many-legged runners to find. It's time to prostrate ourselves and give special thanks to our Patreons, our Purple Crayon Eater Mary Peck, our new janitor recruits Alex Nunez, Feeny Von Karma, and Arkham Cookie, who apparently TJ has been hiring behind our backs and going over our budget. He says it's for the Crayon Army and asks me not to refer to any of them by name or by rank. Our Void Walker Evan Diaz, who is currently remaking the third floor in a powerful beige with these reverberating patterns, and one of our very own Blackwell family members, Papa Kyle Blackwell, sitting on his rocking chair made of bones, steel, and unfulfilled dreams, watching and waiting for the slightest hint of vulnerability before enacting his war campaign. Oh, we love you, Papa, and we do fear you in equal measure. We thank all of you humbly for your patronage and look to see you bright and early for Dusklight orientation. Purple crayons and existential dread will be provided. And, one last time, listeners, close your eyes and breathe with me. Remember, no matter how bad things are, how cruel people can be, and how heavy your shoulders may feel with the weight of the world bearing down on them, Dusklight will always be here to lift the load and provide you with some respite. Drink a latte, watch a video about great large trees, eat something sweet, and sleep on the cool side of the pillow with the window open and the stars twinkling down on you. Start and end each day with kindness in your heart. You matter, you are loved, and every day is another chance. I'll see you again when the sun sets and dusk enters the station.